and we're going to be counting by 20s. So we counted by 5s, and then we counted by 10s, and this time we're going to be counting by 20s. All right, so my first person I see on here is Michael. Michael, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
20.
Thank you. Alejandro, what's next?
40.
40. Derek, what's next?
60.
Good job. Cynthia, what's next?
80.
80. Eduardo, what's next? We're counting by 20s, and our last one was 80. What comes next?
100.
100, yep. Nia, what's next?
120.
Corbin, what's next?
140.
Junia, what's next?
160.
Good job. Guadalupe, what's next?
180.
Yep, 180. All right, we're gonna pause right there. That's an 8. Looks kind of funky, but it's an 8. Can someone raise their hand and tell me what the equation would be after the 9th person has counted? So we have gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 people have counted. Someone raise their hand and tell me what the equation would be for this. I haven't seen a hand yet. I might just call on somebody. Cynthia, go ahead.
9 times 20.
9 times 20, yep. And what would that equal?
180.
180. And where did you get those numbers?
Because it was 20 and we stopped at
9 people counted by 20s, and we stopped at 180 after 9 people counted. All right, we are going to keep going. Denise, what would be next?
200.
And Kayla, what would come after that?
230.
Close. Super close. It would be 220. We're counting up by 20s, and 200 plus 20 would be 220. CJ, what would be next?
240.
Alex J, what would be next?
260.
260. And Jay, what would be next?
280.
280. So, who can raise their hand and tell me what the equation would be for after the 14th person has counted? That was our 14th person. What would our equation be? Michael.
14 times 20 equals 280.
Good job. And where did you get those numbers?
Because we written 14 numbers and all of them are 20.
So we counted 14 people counted by 20. So we've gone up by 20 14 times, and we got to 280. Did I miss anybody? I think I got everyone. All right, who would like to read our goal for today? Someone who I have not heard. Jonathan, thank you.
Our goal today is to be able to compare two fractions with the same numerator.
Thank you. So we're going to be, like I said at the beginning, we're going to be comparing two fractions with the same numerator. But first, we're going to review comparing them with the same denominator. So we're going to compare 1/6 and 4/6 and 2/3 and 1/3. Let's start together with 1/6 and 4/6. We're going to draw this one out. What would I do first? Guadalupe, what would I do first?
Draw the two rectangles
And what's special about the rectangles?
to be the same size.
Same size. And Alex J, how many pieces equal pieces am I dividing my rectangles into?
6.
Yep, just the first one or both of them?
Both.
Because why?
Because they have the same denominator.
Because they have the same denominator.
Boom! Nice work, Alex J.
And Jay, how many am I going to shade in on the top one, which is 1/6?
1.
1. And how many I'm going to stick with Jay. How many am I going to shade in on the bottom one?
4.
So Denise, which one is larger?
The 4/6.
4/6. So we looked, how did you know that the 4/6 is larger?
Because the 4 is larger than 1.
4 is larger than 1. So you could have done that without even drawing them out. But if we look at it by drawing it out, we can see, if I draw my line up here, that 4/6 takes up more of the whole. More of the whole is shaded than 1/6. But you're right, also 4 is bigger than 1. So why don't you guys get your whiteboards out, take a minute, do 2/3 and 1/3. I'm gonna give you about a little less than 2 minutes, and then show them to me. And you can go ahead and give me a thumbs up when you're done. Cynthia's got it. Boom. Super speedy. And you don't have to draw it out if you know it without drawing it out. That's all right. Corbin's got it. Jay's got it. Dunia's got it. Good job, Dunia. He's got it. Jonathan's got it. All right, you guys are pretty quick on that. Good job. Let's see. On here. Jonathan, which one is larger? 2/3 or 1/3?
1/3.
2/3. And how did you know that?
Cause I made a line down, and then it landed on the third one, the third line.
So you drew it out? You drew the 2 rectangles? And how many equal pieces did you divide them into?
3.
3. Both of the rectangles or just one? Both of them or just one? Both of them. And how many did you shade in on the top one?
2.
And how many did you shade in on the bottom one?
1.
So then you saw, if you drew a line down, that 2/3 takes up more of the whole. Who did it without drawing it? Raise your hand if you did it without drawing it. Jay. So how did you know that 2/3 was bigger than 1/3?
Because 2 is big.
2 is bigger than 1. And we can do that because they have the same what? We can say, okay, I know 2 is bigger than 1 because they have the same what, Jay?
Because you count 1 and then you count, and then you say 1, then 2.
Right, but we can compare it that way because they have the same, what? What's that word for those numbers?
Denominator?
Yep, they have the same denominator. So in both of these, they both have the same denominator. So that was our review from yesterday. Now we're going to talk a little bit about what we do with fractions that have the same numerator. If you guys, can you guys all check that you did for me? I hear some background noise. It's a little bit distracting. So if you're not muted, mute yourself. Okay, so you guys have actually seen this before, but we're going to review it a little bit. So we're going to pretend that this is a candy bar, okay? Right here at the top, we have one whole candy bar. I've not broken it up into any pieces. It's one whole. But I came to school and Mr. Hoffman says that he wants some. So I'm going to break it up into 2 pieces. The next one, because I'm going to share. And it's going to look like this. Well, then maybe Mrs. Kleinsmith comes into the room and she says, well, I wanted some too. So I get a new candy bar and I break it up into 3 pieces. What do you notice about these pieces as we keep going down? What is different? Corbin.
They're getting smaller.
Pieces are getting smaller. So the more I divide it up, the smaller the pieces get. So if you look, and if I shared it with Mr. Hoffman, I would have 1/2 and he would have 1/2. But if we shared it with Mrs. Kleinsmith, I would have 1/3, Mr. Hoffman would have 1/3, and Mrs. Kleinsmith would have 1/3. And then if we shared a candy bar with Mrs. Brocker too, we would all have 1/4. So what do you notice about the denominators? We started with 1/2, but then we went to 1/3, and then we went to 1/4. Michael.
You're getting more pieces.
So what do you notice about the numbers, the denominator specifically? So we started with a denominator of 2, then we went to a denominator of 3, then we went to a denominator of 4. What's happening to those numbers? They're getting what?
Bigger.
Bigger. So as the denominator gets bigger, my pieces get smaller. It can keep going. If we divided it up 6 times, those pieces are going to be smaller than if we divided it 4 times. And then if we kept going, the smallest pieces down here have fractions with the biggest denominators, all right? Okay, well, my line's got a little funky right there. So we are going to compare 2/4 and 2/8. And we're going to start by drawing them. So Kayla, what would I do first if I want to draw these out to compare them?
Draw a rectangle.
Draw a rectangle. So we're going to start with my 2/4. And Alejandro, how many equal pieces am I going to divide this rectangle into for 2/4?
4.
And sticking with Alejandra, how many am I going to shade in?
2.
2, right. Okay, and then CJ, what am I going to do next? If I'm going to look at 2 8s, what do I need to do?
You need to draw the base and make sure it's the same size as 2 4s.
Yep, drawing the rectangle, and I need to make sure that the rectangle is the same size. And then, Eric, how many equal pieces am I going to divide this one into for 2 8s?
You said what?
Eric, sorry, bud. Eric.
Two 8, I think 2 or 9, 2 8.
How many equal pieces am I going to divide this into? So I'm drawing out 2 8s right here. So
Yeah, right there.
What's my denominator?
8.
8. So I'm going to divide it into 8 equal pieces.
1, 2.
Derek with a D, how many pieces am I going to shade in?
2.
Derek with a D, how many pieces am I going to shade in? Where'd he go?
8.
No. How many am I going to shade in? What's my new?
Oh, 2.
There you go. Okay. Which one, raise your hand, which one's the larger fraction? Raise your hand and tell me. Someone who I have not heard from in a minute. Guadalupe.
2 4s.
2 4s. And why is that one bigger?
Because the 4 are wider.
Say that again, Guadalupe. Sorry, we couldn't hear you very well.
Because the 4s are wider.
Because the 4s are wider. So even though we are shading in the same number of squares, so we shaded in 2 at the top and 2 on the bottom, the squares on the top are wider because my denominator is what? Ania. What's the difference between this denominator and this one?
That 4 is like a lower number than 8.
Yep, 4 is a lower number than 8. So I'm dividing my, say, candy bar into less pieces. I'm sharing it with less people, so my pieces are bigger. And we're going to keep doing some examples. Don't worry if you're still a little bit confused. We kind of just talked about this, so we don't really need to talk about it again. Okay, so we're going to do another practice. Eduardo, I'm going to draw out my 5 8s. What am I going to do first? Eduardo, what am I going to do first if I'm drawing 5 8s? You may need some help.
Eduardo.
Michael, what am I going to do first?
You're going to draw your rectangle.
Perfect. Yes, I'm going to draw my rectangle. And how many pieces am I going to divide my rectangle into, Michael? I'm going to stick with you for a minute.
8.
8. Good job. And how many am I going to shade in?
5.
5. Thank you. And
Sorry to interrupt, but Derek and SCL, please start your video. I've asked you several times if you're there, otherwise you're going in the waiting room.
all right, and Corbin, what do you notice about these two fractions? What's the same?
That they both have the same numerator.
Yep, they have the same numerator, so that's important to look at. And Corbin, I'm going to stick with you. If I'm drawing 5, 6, what do I need to do first?
You need to draw the rectangle.
Yep, and it needs to be the same size as the one above it. And how many equal pieces am I going to divide it into?
6.
6. And how many am I going to shade in?
5.
Hmm? Denise, which rectangle has wider pieces?
The 5th, 6th.
The 5, 6 one, yep. So which one of these is larger? Alejandro, which one of these fractions is larger?
5.
5, 6, because even though they have the same numerator, my pieces are wider on 5, 6, so it's going to be more of the whole that I have shaded in here. Let's do another one. We're going to actually do this one together. Alex J, what am I going to do first?
Draw a rectangle.
Keep walking me through it.
Then draw 4 lines.
What's next?
Draw another. Draw another rectangle.
Hold on, we need to finish drawing this fraction first.
Shade in 3.
There you go, thank you. Then Ania, looking at the bottom one. What's the same between these two fractions?
That the numerator is same thing as the other numerator.
The numerators are the same. So going down here, I'm going to draw 3, 6. And how many equal pieces am I going to divide this into?
3.
Not 3. That's my numerator, so that's how many I'm going to shade in. See how I shaded in 3 at the top? How many equal pieces did I divide mine into on the top?
4.
Yep, so down here, my denominator is 6. How many equal pieces am I going to divide it into?
6.
6, good job. And then I just told you, but I'm going to ask you again, how many am I going to shade in?
3.
So somebody else, raise your hand and tell me which one of these is larger. TJ.
3/4.
Why?
Because 3/6 and 3/4 don't line up. 3/4 has the longer, it has like one more.
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. So the 3/4, what's the difference between my pieces? So I know they're a little bit wonky because it's hard to get them super straight here. But like, look at this piece.
Smaller because you have to put 6 pieces.
Yep, I'm splitting my bottom one up into more pieces, so the pieces are going to be smaller. So even though I've shaded in the same amount, the pieces that I've shaded in are bigger in 3/4, so that one is larger. All right. Why don't you guys go ahead and do this one on your own, okay? And I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to do it, and then we're going to talk about how you did it.
That's so easy. That's so easy.
The only thing I need from you guys is to give me a thumbs up when you're done. Jonathan's done. Thank you, Jonathan. Corbin is done. Junia is done. Ania is done. Alejandra is done. Alex J is done. Denise is done. Kayla's done. All right, looks like most of us are ready to go. So Corbin, why don't you tell me which one is larger and how you know that? Corbin, you're muted, bud.
So I drew the rectangles and I added 3 to the top and then 5 to the bottom, and I colored in.
You're muted again. I think you muted yourself again.
I drew them all, and then I drew a line down, and the line didn't connect with 5. So 3 was the bigger number.
So you did it by drawing.
Yes.
Did anyone do it without drawing them out? Looking for hands. So you can always check by drawing them out, but could someone explain to me how we could figure that out which one's bigger without drawing them out? Jay.
So you can figure it out by seeing the denominator, which denominator is a lower number, so then it's more bigger than the higher number.
Yep, so that was perfect. So if the numerators are the same, which they are here, both of them are 2, we can look at our denominators and say, okay, 3 is less than 5, so I'm going to be splitting my rectangle up into less pieces, so they will be bigger. If you look, I'm just kind of drawing it out again to show an example. We know that the pieces are going to be bigger in 2/3, and even though we're shading the same amount, it's going to be more. So whichever denominator is smaller, that's going to be your larger fraction. So let's do one more practice before Mr. Hoffman tells you what your job is. We're going to look at 1/4 and 1/6. Without drawing them out, who can tell me which one of these is bigger? Raise your hand. Somebody. Michael.
1/4.
1/4. And how do you know that?
Because the 6, you're going to have to draw more squares. And the 4, you only have to draw. I lost my words.
Okay, you're on the right track. So for 1/4, we're dividing it up into less pieces than 1/6. So the pieces are going to be bigger for 1/4. So once we shade it in, we're going to see that 1/4 is bigger than 1/6. So like I said, you can always check your work. I've done this a different way. You can always check your work by drawing it out, but you could look at this and say, I bet that 1/4 is going to be bigger than 1/6 because the denominator is smaller, okay? Oh, we have another one. Why don't you guys go ahead and do this one by yourselves and give me a thumbs up when you're done. Try to do it without drawing them out.
That's so easy.
Stay muted. Jimmy is done. Jay is done.
Done.
Eric's done. Guadalupe is done. All right, Guadalupe. Which one of these is bigger?
1/5.
1/5 is bigger? Did anyone else?
1/2.
1/2. So 1/2 is going to be bigger, and why is 1/2 going to be bigger? Who can help her out to explain that? Why is 1/2 going to be bigger? Derek.
1/2 is going to be bigger because it's larger. Right?
So the pieces are going to be bigger.
Yeah.
So if I'm drawing this out, top one's 1/5 and the bottom one's 1/2. How many equal pieces am I dividing my top rectangle into? Derek, you can keep not my bottom one, my top one for 1/5.
Oh. 1.
Not
Right.
1.
No.
I'm dividing this one into 5 pieces.
Yeah.
And 1. But then on the bottom, Ania, how many am I splitting it up into on the bottom? How many equal pieces? For 1/2, right here on the bottom. How many equal pieces am I dividing it into?
2.
2. Only 2. So if these are candy bars and I'm sharing them, and I only share it with one other person, so I get one, Mr. Hoffman gets one, these pieces are bigger than these pieces, right? All right, I'm gonna hand it back over to Mr. Hoffman.
All right, y'all. Your job today is very similar to what you guys did yesterday, and you did an awesome job with yesterday, so we're excited to see what you guys do today. I do want to, sorry, I'm going to slow down. I do want to point out something that we noticed yesterday when we were grading assignments where people missed some points, all right? So just like yesterday, it says which fraction is larger, and you have 3 to say which one is larger, one than the other, and then you have 2 story problems. and it says you need to explain the answer or show your representations for number 4 and 5. Yesterday, people missed a point on the story problems for not explaining. All right, so make sure you explain your solutions. All right. After that, try to get a Dreambox lesson done. We did a good job on Dreambox yesterday, but we still have several people without any Dreambox lessons done. I'm going to kind of share who's in small group with me here in a second, and then we're going to let you guys go get started.